Your Excellency President Zuma, Your Excellency President Mugabe, rotating chairperson of the African Union, heads of state, heads of government, chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Zuma, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It gives me great pleasure to meet so many African brothers who are both old and new friends of mine in the rainbow nation of South Africa. As the co-chair of the forum, I wish to express my warm welcome to you for attending the Johannesburg Summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. I also wish to express my sincere appreciation to South Africa, host of the summit, for its warm hospitality. This is my 7th visit to the African continent, and also my 2nd visit to Africa since taking office as the Chinese president. Every time I visit Africa, I see new progress and new changes on this continent. Today's Africa is a continent of encouraging and dynamic development. Africa has actively explored a path of development suited to its principle of solving African issues in the African way. Such a momentum of independent development is unstoppable. Africa has actively advanced industrialization and pursued sustainable self-development. Such a momentum of rapid growth is unstoppable. Africa has accelerated its integration process and speaks in one voice on the international stage. Such a momentum of pursuing strength through unity is unstoppable. The late President Nelson Mandela of South Africa once said, "We stand at the dawn of an African century, where Africa will take its rightful place among the nations of the world." With this statement, and I am convinced that African countries and people are embracing a new era that is truly theirs. We in China, both the government and people, heartily rejoice over and are proud of Africa's achievements. We sincerely wish African countries and people greater achievements and an even brighter future in pursuing development and progress. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, China and Africa share a common future. We Chinese and Africans have forged profound friendship through our common historical experience and in our struggles. We have always supported each other in trying times. Railway and the Convention Center of the African Union, built with Chinese assistance, are landmarks of Africa-China friendship. The Chinese government and people took the lead in helping Africa fight Ebola and led the international community in its efforts to assist Africa to combat the epidemic, demonstrating the bond of brotherhood between China and Africa in time of difficulty. On our part, we deeply appreciate the African countries' selfless support to China's return to the United Nations and their donations made to when China's Wenchuan and Yushu areas were hit by massive earthquakes.
中非友好
What has made China-Africa friendship durable and vigorous is that the two sides have always been guided by the principle of treating each other as equals, promoting win-win progress and common development, and enhancing sincere friendship and cooperation. China and Africa will forever remain good friends, good partners, and good brothers. China and Africa both shoulder the historical mission of developing our respective countries and improving the livelihood of our peoples. Africa enjoys abundant natural and human resources and has reached the stage of taking off in industrialization. China, after reform and opening up of over 30 years, is now in a position to help Africa realize sustainable self-development with technology, equipment, professional and skilled personnel, and capital. In particular, China has a strong political commitment to supporting Africa in achieving development and prosperity. China and Africa share mutual needs and complementarities and face a rare historic opportunity in pursuing development through cooperation. In the new era, we should carry forward the African friendship and translate the strengths of our traditional friendship into driving forces to boost solidarity, cooperation and development so that we will deliver more tangible benefits to our peoples and make greater contribution to the development of the world in a more balanced, just and inclusive manner and to the building of a new model of international partnership based on win-win cooperation. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the world is undergoing profound changes. Economic globalization and IT application have tremendously unleashed and advanced social productive forces. We are facing unprecedented opportunities of development. On the other hand, hegemony, terrorism, financial turbulence, and environmental pronounced, posing unprecedented challenges to us. In conducting China's relations with Africa, we adhere to the principles of sincerity, practical results, affinity, and good faith, and uphold the values of friendship, justice, and shared interests. And we will work with Africa to embrace a new era of win-win cooperation and common development. With this in mind, I propose that the new type of China-Africa strategic partnership be upgraded to a comprehensive, strategic and cooperative partnership. To forge this partnership, we should strengthen the following 5 major pillars. First, we should remain committed to political equality and mutual trust. A high degree of political mutual trust is the foundation of China-Africa friendship. We should respect each other's choice of development path and not impose our own will on the other. On issues involving core interests and major concerns of each side, we should show mutual understanding, support each other, and jointly uphold equity and justice. China strongly believes that Africa belongs to the African people, and that African affairs should be handled by the African people. Second, we should remain committed to promoting win-win economic cooperation. We Chinese value both friendship and justice as well as shared interests and place more importance on the former. Friendship and justice, which defines China-Africa relations, require us to boost development with China's development and ultimately deliver
和经济互补的优势，以产能合作。
development and ultimately deliver win-win progress and common development through mutually beneficial cooperation. We should fully leverage the strengths of political mutual trust and economic complementarities between China and Africa and focus on industrial capacity cooperation as well as the three networks and industrialization. By doing so, we can deepen China-Africa cooperation in all areas and bring its benefits to our peoples. Third, we should remain committed to mutually enriching cultural exchanges. Diversity makes the world beautiful. We are proud that both China and Africa have time-honored and splendid civilizations. We should strengthen cultural exchanges and mutual learning between China and Africa, facilitate more exchanges between the youth, women, think tanks, media, universities, and other sectors of the two sides, promote cultural interactions, policy coordination, and people exchanges to advance common progress and ensure the sustained growth of China-Africa friendship generation. Fourth, we should remain committed to mutual assistance in security. Poverty is the root cause of chaos, while peace is the guarantee for development. Development holds the key to solving all problems. China supports the settlement of African issues by Africans in the African way. We are of the view that in resolving security issues, both the symptoms and the root causes must be addressed in a holistic way. China stands ready to take an active part in Africa's efforts in capacity building for maintaining and strengthening peace and security, and support Africa in its endeavors to speed up development, eradicate poverty, and realize durable peace. Fifth, we should remain committed to solidarity and cooperation in international affairs. China and Africa share common position on and interests in a wide. We should strengthen coordination and collaboration so as to make the global governance system more just and equitable and uphold our common interests. China will continue to stand up and speak for Africa at the United Nations and other international fora to support Africa in playing a greater international role. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, to build China-Africa comprehensive strategic and cooperative partnership, China will implement 10 cooperation plans with Africa in the next 3 years, guided by the principle of government guidance, business being the major actors, 3 bottleneck issues holding back Africa's development, namely inadequate infrastructure, lack of professional and skilled personnel, and funding shortage, accelerating Africanization and agricultural modernization, and achieving sustainable self-development. First, we will implement China-Africa Industrialization Plan. China will actively promote industrial alignment and production capacity cooperation between China and Africa, and encourage more Chinese enterprises to make business investment in Africa. In cooperation with Africa, we will build or upgrade a number of industrial parks, send senior government experts and advisors to Africa, and set up regional convocational education centers and several schools for capacity building. 200,000 technical personnel and provide 40,000 training opportunities for African personnel in China.
二是中非农业现代化合作计
Second,
划
we。will implement China-Africa
中方将
agricultural
同非洲
modernization
分享
plan.
农业发展经
China will
验，
share its experience
转
in
让
agricultural
农业
development
适
with
用技术，
Africa and transfer readily
鼓励中国企业
applicable
在非洲
technologies
开
to it.
展大
We
规模种
encourage
植、
Chinese enterprises to
畜牧
engage
养
in
殖、
large-scale farming,
粮食仓
animal
储和加
husbandry,
工，
and grain
增加当地
storage
就业 科
and
研机构
establish a 10
10+10
plus
合作机
10
制，
cooperation mechanism
就是中非双方各选择
between
10家农业
Chinese
科技
and
科研机构，
African
建立对口的合
agricultural
作机制。
research institutes.
中方高度重视关注
China is
非
greatly
洲多个国
concerned
家受厄尔尼诺现象
about
影
the
响，
poor harvest
致粮食欠
caused
收，
by El Nino in
将
many
向受灾
African
国家
countries
提供10亿元人民币
and will provide
紧急
1
粮食援助。
billion RMB yuan worth of emergency food aid to the affected countries.
三是中非基础设施合作计划。
Third,
中方将同非
Third,
洲
we will
在基
implement
础设施
China-Africa
规划、
infrastructure
设
cooperation
计、
plan.
建
China will
设、
step up
运
mutually
营、
beneficial cooperation
维
with
护等方
Africa
面加
in
强互利合
infrastructure
作，
planning,
支持
design,
中国企业
construction,
积极参
operation,
与
and maintenance.
非洲
We
铁
support
路、
Chinese
公
enterprises'
路、
active
区域
participation
航空、
in Africa's
港口、
infrastructural
电
development,
力、
particularly
电
in
信等
sectors
基础
such
设
as
施建
railways,
设，
roads, regional
提升
aviation, ports,
非洲
electricity,
可持
and
续发展能力，
telecommunications to enhance
支
Africa's
持非洲
capacity
国家
for sustainable countries in building and upgrading 5 transportation universities.
四是中非金融合作计划。
Fourth,
中方将同非洲
we
国家
will
扩大人民
implement
币结算
China-Africa
和本地互
financial
换业务规模，
cooperation plan.
鼓励中国
China
金融
will
机构
expand
赴
its
非洲
RMB
设立
settlement
更
and
多的
currency swap
分支机构，
operations with African
以
countries,
多种方式
encourage
扩
Chinese
大对非洲
financial
投融
institutions
资合
to
作，
set up more branches in
为非洲
Africa
工业化
and
和现
increase
代
its
化
investment and
提供
financing
金
of
融支
cooperation
持
with
和
Africa in
服务。
multiple ways to provide financial support and services
五
for
是
Africa's
中非
industrialization
绿色发
and
展合作计划。
modernization drive. Fifth, we
中
will
方
implement
将支
China-Africa
持非
Green
洲
Development Plan.
增强绿色、
China will
低碳
support Africa
可持
in
续发展能
bolstering
力，
its capacity for green,
支持非
low
洲实
carbon,
施
and sustainable development,
100个
and
清
support
洁能
Africa
源
in
和
launching
动植物
100 projects to
保护
develop
项目，
clean energy, protect
环境
wildlife,
友好型
promote
农业项目
environment-friendly
和智
agriculture,
慧型，
and
绝不以牺牲
China-Africa
非洲生
cooperation
态
will
环
never
境
be
和
pursued
长远
at
利
the
益
expense of
为代价。
Africa's ecosystem and long-term interests.
六是中非贸易和投资
We
便利化
will
合作计
implement
划。
China-Africa trade and investment
中方将
facilitation
实
plan.
施50个
China
促
will
进
carry
贸
out
易援助项
50
目，
aid for trade
支
programs
持非洲改
to
善
improve
内外贸
Africa's
和投
capacity
资
for
软硬条
conducting
件。
internal and external
愿
trade
同非洲
and
国家和
investment.
区域组织商谈，
China is ready
包括互
to
贸易、
negotiate with countries
服务贸
and
易、
regional organizations
投资
in
合作
Africa
等全面
comprehensive
自由贸易协
free
定，
trade agreements
扩大
covering
非
trade
洲
in
输
goods
华
and
产品规
services
模，
and investment
支持
cooperation
非洲国
and
家
increase
提
import
高海
of
关、
African
质
products.
检、税务等执法
China will
能力，
support African countries in
开展标
enhancing
准
law
化
enforcement
和
capacity
认
in
证
areas
认可
such as
电子商务合作。
and taxation. We will also engage in cooperation with
七
Africa
是中
in
非
standardization,
减
certification, and
贫
e-commerce.
惠民合作计
Seventh,
划
we。will implement China-Africa poverty reduction plan.
中方将在加强自身
While
减贫努力的
intensifying
同
its
时，
own poverty reduction efforts,
我这里要讲，我们
I
在过
have
去
to
的
say
30多
that
年，
in the past 30
一
years and
共消
more,
除了7亿
we
贫困，
lifted 700 million people
为联合
out
国
of
千年发展
poverty,
目标、人类发展做出了贡献。
making contribution to
但是
the
我们目
achievement
前
of
在13亿多
Millennium
人口
Development
中，
Goals and human
还有
development
现
on
行
the
标准
whole.
的7000万
However,
贫困人口。
we still have 70
那么
million
我们决
people
心
living
在
under
未来的5
poverty.
年，也就是
We're
在
determined
2020年实现
in the
全面
next
小康之
5
际，
years, by 2020,
全面消除
when we
贫困。
finish the building of a moderate, prosperous society
与
in
此
all
同时
respects,
呢，
eradicate
我们也
poverty
将
comprehensively and
继续
completely.
为国
At the
际的
same time, we will
扶贫事业 做出我们应有的贡
make our
献，
contribution to the international efforts
增加对非
in
援，在
aviation.
非洲实施200个幸福生活工
We will
程
carry out in
和
Africa
以妇女儿童为
200 happy
主要
lives
受益者
projects
的减贫
and
项目，
poverty reduction programs focusing on women
免
and
除非洲
children.
有关最不发达国家截止2015年年底
We will
到期
cancel
未还
outstanding
的
debts in the
政
form
府
of
间
bilateral
无
governmental
息
zero
贷款债
interest
务，
loans borrowed by the relevant least developed African countries that mature at the end of 2015.
8是中非公共卫生合作计划，
Eighth, we will implement
中方
China-Africa
将
Public
参与
Health
非洲疾
Cooperation
控中
Plan.
心等公共卫生防控体系
China will help
和能
Africa
力建设，
strengthen its public health prevention and
支
control
持中非
system,
各
as well
20
as
所医
capacity
院
building by
开展示
participating
范
in the
合作，
building of the African
加
Center
强
for
专业
Disease
科室
Control.
建设，
We will support
继续派
pace-setting
遣
cooperation
医
between
疗队
20
员，
Chinese hospitals and 20
开
African
展光
hospitals
明型
and upgrade hospital departments.
妇幼保
We
健
will
在内的
continue to
医疗
send
援
medical
助，
teams to Africa and provide medical
为非洲
assistance
提
such
供
as
一
the
批
abundant
复
action
方
program
青蒿素
and maternal
抗疟药
and
品，
child care. We will provide more
鼓励支持
anti-malaria
中国企
compound
业
artemisinin
赴非
to
洲开
Africa. Encourage
药
and
品
support in
药品
Africa
在非洲
to
可及
increase
性。
Africans' access to medicine.
9是中非
Ninth,
人文合
We
作计
will
划，
implement China-Africa cultural
中
and
方将为
people-to-people
非洲
cooperation
援建
plan.
5所文化中心，为
China
非
will
洲
build 5 cultural centers in
1万个
Africa
村落
and provide
实施收
satellite
看
TV
卫星电
reception
视项目，
to
为非洲提供
10,000 African
2000个学历学
villages.
位
We
教育
will
名
provide
额
to Africa 2,000
和
educational
3万个
opportunities with
政府
diplomas
奖学
or
金名额，
degrees and 30,000 government
每年组织
scholarships.
200名非洲学者
Every
访
year,
华
we will sponsor visits by
500 名
200 African
非洲
scholars
青年研
and
修，
study trips by 500 young
每年
Africans
培训
to China and
1000
train
非洲
1,000
新闻
media
领域
professionals
从业人
from
员，
Africa.
支持开通更多
We
中非直航
support
航
the
班，
opening of more to boost our tourism cooperation.
10是
Tenth,
中非和平与
we will
安全合作计划，
implement China-Africa Peace and Security Cooperation Plan.
中方将向非
China will
盟
provide
提供6000万美元无偿
$60
援助，
million of grant to support
支持
the
非洲
building
常
and
备
operation
军
of the African
和危
Standby
机
Force
应对
and the
快速
African
反应部队
capacity
建设
for the
和运
immediate
作。
response to crisis.
中方将继续参与
China
联合
will
国
continue to
在
participate
非洲
in
维和行动，
UN peacekeeping missions
支持非
in
洲国家加
Africa
强
and support
国防、
African countries' capacity
反恐、
building in
防暴、
areas such as
海
defense,
关监管、
counterterrorism,
移
riot
民管控等
prevention,
方面的
customs,
能力建设，
and immigration control.
为确保
To ensure
这10大
the
合作计
successful implementation of
顺利
these
实施
10 cooperation plans,
中方决定
China decides
提供
to provide $60 billion of funding support.
这包括
It includes
提供50亿美元的无偿援助
$5 billion
和无息贷
of
款
grant，and zero interest
包
loans,
括提供350亿美元的
$35 billion
优惠性
of preferential
优惠性质贷款和出口
facilities
信贷
and
额度，
export credit
并
line
提高
and
优惠贷
concessional
款的
loans
优惠度，
on more favorable terms.
为中非发展基金
An increase
和非洲
of
中小
$5
企业
billion
发展专项贷
to the
款
China-Africa
各增
Development
资
Fund
50
and the
亿美
special
元，
loan for the development for
设立
African
首批资金
SMEs respectively,
100亿美
and the
元的
China-Africa
中
Fund
非
of
产能合
Production
作基金。
Capacity Cooperation with an initial contribution of $10 billion.
尊敬的各位同事、女士们、先生
Dear
们，
colleagues, ladies and
今年
gentlemen,
是中非合作论坛成立
this
15
year
周年。
marks the 15th anniversary
15
of
年来
FOCAC.
中非各领域
The
务实合
past
作成果
15
丰
years
硕，
have seen fruitful progress in China-Africa practical
中非
cooperation
贸易
across
总
the
额和
board.
中国对非
Two-way
洲
trade in
非
China's
金融类投
total
资存量
non-financial investment in
分别是
Africa in
2000年的
2014
22倍
was 22 times and 60 times that of the year
中国对非洲
2000
经济发展的贡献
respectively, which shows
显著
China's
增长。
contribution to Africa's economic
中非
development
合作
has
论
risen
坛
significantly.
已经成为引
FOCAC
领
has
中非
become
合
a
作的
pace
一
setter
面旗
in
帜，
China-Africa
为
cooperation,
南南合作
an example
树立了
of
典范，
South-South cooperation,
成为带动国际社会
and a leader
加大对非洲关注和
in
投入的
increasing
先锋。
international attention to and input in
当
Africa.
前，中非关系
China-Africa
正
relations
处在历
have
史上
today reached
最
a
好时
stage
期。
of growth
我
unmatched in
们应
history.
该登高望远，
We should scale the heights,
阔步前行，
look afar, and take bold
让我
steps.
们携手努力，
Let us join hands,
汇聚起中非
pull the
24亿人
vision
民
and
的智
strength
慧
of the
和力量，
2.4 billion Chinese
共
and
同开
Africans,
启中非合作共赢
and open a
共
new
同
era
发
of
展的
China-Africa win-win
新时代。
cooperation and common
谢谢大家。
development. Thank you.